Yeah, soon, yeah. Good God. You ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I don't know. I'm a bit worried.
Move the chair in the box so we can see all the screen. Cheers, thank you.
You want to see the screen? You're meant to look at me.
What else is there to look at?
Please. I mean, look. I don't know where to start. You can take your choice. Incompetence, incontinence, or embarrassing my children is obvious. This is a very serious talk. I want to talk about travel seriously. You know, the sort of problems that people have, like being raped or breaking down on the top of an iceberg. I haven't done any of those, but in fact, I'm a failure as a traveler. I ride a 125 and they don't break down, and I do exactly what millions of people do every day. I chug off, and they go to work. I just ride a bit further and have a much, much better lunch. There's no great adventure in travel. I know there should be, but there isn't if you organize yourself properly. I don't organize at all, and I still don't have any trouble. And if you ride a 125, you can do it on a pension. There are a few, anybody young here, they resent the hell that I can do it on a pension. Here I am, I've worked all my life. Look, done to the bone. Now I have a tiny pension, they resent it. It's not fair. It really isn't fair. You know, I'm totally innocent. I'm going to show you some photographs, apparently. Except I don't know how to. You said if I pressed that button, something would happen. Oh, that's my first bike. I rode that from Mexico down to the tip of South America and back. That's back. That's my daughter, that's my grandchild. Thoroughly boring. Next one.
Why is there a pair of crutches there?
Why what?
Why is there a pair of crutches?
Crutches.
Well, why not? You get hit by a truck or two, you know, you have to work. What do you mean?
I'm just leading you on, Simon.
You know, they heckle. I'm trying to be serious, committed. But they're only crutches. Oh, they're still there. Oh my God. We have to get rid of the crutches. I find the whole thing very difficult. I don't know why you do photographs, because you turn around. At my age, you turn around, you get a stiff neck. That's the next bike. This is a really important bike. In my late 70s, I was invited by the American company called California Scooter Company to do a team ride to test their new bike down through Baja California. It was absolutely a wonderful bike. Broke down all the time. And they were great. They were really nice, but they didn't sort of do things that I do. The bikes would break down. Welds would break. The whole thing would sort of shatter. And they'd sort of, none of them spoke any Spanish, not even the one who was married to a Peruvian. I mean, literally none. You know, and I go and find, in some village, I find a welder. You know, sand floor, tin roof, a welder. Nice young guy. And he'd start welding. These Americans stand there saying, do you think he knows what he's doing? And watching us are all these Mexicans. They've got gold bracelets, they've got gold necklaces. These guys build submarines for the drug trade. They're the best welders in the whole world. You know, and they're looking, one of them looks up at me and says, what are you doing with these people, grandfather? I said, well, I'm being paid. And they look at me, but not as much as we are, shaking their gold a bit. You know, which is, but they're nice. I mean, it was the worst trip I've ever done. We went to very good restaurants, which only served American food. The countryside was absolutely beautiful, but we had to keep going. They broke all the speed limits and everything, and I spent at least an hour every day talking to the police and sort of saying, please. And they're sort of, you know, they want to get the money out. Bribe everybody. I say, for God's sake, don't, please don't take the money out. It's not going to help. But they do build this. I mean, come on, that's a dream. Best. What? Well, the bike's crap. They've stopped producing them now. And this was the next one. Honda gave me that in India. And it's very sweet. I have young children, I mean young in their 20s, vile. And one of them emailed me. He said, "What are you doing on a teenager's cafe race?" So, "Dad, where'd you put your belly?" It's that sort of thing. That's why you get your revenge and trying to embarrass them. They say, if I ever wear this in public, they never speak to me again. They still speak to me, not very politely. And my wife says this one is totally against the law. But, you know, the freebies. God, I hate photographs. Roads, bad roads, good roads, thoroughly boring. A bunch of doped out Enfield riders in India. I don't know why I showed that. And then you go up and you do passes. You've got to do passes. Very important to do passes. If you don't do passes, you're not a proper biker. And you have to have oxygen tanks and medicine cabinets and doctors and things with you. And they get quite cross with me because I have my little grey wheelie suitcase and I wear shoes. And they've got sort of three. And then bridges. I don't like bridges. I mean, there's something about bridges that, hey, that's an easy one. That's, you know, you can shut your eyes and make it, right? Yeah. Then comes the back. No, I'm sorry, that is not the right bridge. That connects Costa Rica into Panama. It's called the Bridge of the Americas. And I'm waiting to go across it, and some guy, while I'm waiting, says to me, you know, a German went over the side the other day, he got killed, and it's raining. And I look at that bridge, and I think if I take it very slowly, I'm going to be all right. And I get to about the first support, and I decide that the only really sensible thing to do is to fall off quickly. And they go, "Oh, grandfather," and they lift you up, and they lift the bike up, and they put the bike in a truck, and they put me in the front of the truck. I feel so grand. See what I mean? I'm not really a hero. I don't do hero. Oh, India, yes, India. I love India roads. I was in camp with this major of special forces, and he said to me, "Simon, have you ever seen an Indian truck driver wearing spectacles?" And I thought for a bit, and I said, "No, I don't think so, no." He said, "Do you think they will have eye tests?" And then I talked to a customs officer who'd retired, and he had a roadside stop for truck drivers. And he said they all take speed to keep going at night. So, you know, they're half blind and they're on speed. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. This is one morning, by the way, when I decided to take photographs. Normally I didn't because I found it not very pleasant. It just shows you that speed really isn't good for you. And you probably do need to take eye tests. Although you think you couldn't really miss a truck. The great thing about riding through India is you have to sort things out. A good day, I mean a standard day is 3 near-death experiences. 2 near-death experiences, it's a good one. 1 is miraculous. None? No, unbelievable. Sorry. Then you go up mountains. I never quite know why I go up mountains. I really like the beach, so I like prawns. But, you know, mountains always get in the way. This is the Sierra in Mexico, which is very beautiful, I think. I thought it was beautiful. More mountains, Kaziranga. I mean, that's not a bad view from your bedroom, one way and another. That's Sikkim. The Sierra Gorda, Blue Ridge Parkway. Has anybody done that? Yeah. That's really great. Don't do it in early spring when there's frost. Freeze your ass off. Cellar Pass. That Cellar Pass was a mistake. I'd had breakfast with this major, with the special forces. He said the road was bad. You never know what it means, you know. Road's bad. Potholes, too much traffic, Special forces say it's bad. It's not bad. It's bad, 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 bad. And being a man, you then do the man thing, which all women know all about. You think, I can't turn out back because what will the other men think of me? I'm not a proper man, you know. And you think if there's any woman around, they think, oh my God, he can't be that stupid. Yes, he is, he's a man. You know, so you do it. And you go on and you get on, the road gets worse and worse. Then it finally got better because it went up from being that mud up. And it never really had struck me that a cloud forest, the odd thing about a cloud forest is it's in the clouds. And then you can't see. And you see one light coming towards you, and this is India. So one light, 5 trucks? I don't know. So I stop at this little tea house. It's about the size of this chair. There's one little table, and there are 3 drivers crouching around a stove. And they see 2 very young, very, very, very drunk tribal policemen come in with very large guns. And they look at me, and one of them looks at me very seriously, and he said, "Kiss me." Well, drunk and with a gun, kiss. No? Yeah, it's just logic. You know. And then the other one, so 2 kisses. And then they went over and they took a packet of sweet biscuits and gave them to me as a present. And being police, of course, they didn't pay the person who had the treat. So I'm never quite sure about presents like that. When you're not paying for it and you give it to someone else, if it's really a present, it's sort of morally, it's a bit like hedge funds. I shouldn't have said that. I've got a son who does that. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. My God, I'm going off now. So I left because I thought outside was better than inside. And then you get to the cellar pass, and you look up at it, and you think, well, there's a pass. We know about passes. It goes through the mountains, right? So you start going up, and then you keep going up, and you keep going up, and you keep going up. Where's that pass, you know? You keep going up, you keep going up. And you finally find that there isn't a pass. It's just the top of the mountains. I remember I got off. I was so bloody tired. I went into this tea house, and I sat there, and no one came and offered me a cup of tea. And finally, I hadn't got the strength to go and ask for it, so I got back onto the bike, and I rode back down. And you start, it's winter, and then you start going down, and you've got the white. First of all, you've got the red rhododendrons, then you've got the pink, and right down there you've got the white. And it starts off, they've ploughed the field, and the next one, the first spring green's coming through, and they're harvesting right down the bottom. And you think it's absolutely wonderful. There were these true, wonderful young Nepalese girls doing the washing up at a little place I stopped for lunch. Utterly delightful. Tribal, sorry. But so beautiful. And lovely, oh God, gorgeous smiles. But when you get to the bottom, you realize you've got to go all the way up again. And you go all the way down again, and you go all the way, and you come to this absolutely wonderful town called Tawang. And Tawang is at the end of anywhere. The next thing is Tibet. And it's probably very beautiful, but in the rain it's kind of depressing. And it rained, and then there was a huge flash of lightning and all the lights went out. And there were 2 restaurants. There was one up a stairway. I went up the stairway, and when I got to the top, he was watching me climb up. He said, "It's closed." I said, "Oh, right, yes." I went down another one. It was a Chinese restaurant. It had a large notice, which made it safe because I get bronchitis at my age. And it said no smoking. And there were 6 people sitting around a table chain smoking, so I left that. And I went across the street, and that's when the lights went out, this huge flash of lightning. And I could see a little alleyway and a light, and a chug-chug going on. And it was a padded door, and I thought, well, it can't be a whorehouse, because they wouldn't advertise. Yeah, I have hit the only hot spot in the whole of Tawang. So I go in, and there's a candle to greet me. So I sit with a candle, and the candle doesn't talk much. So after a while, I go and I bang on a door, and then I bang harder, and finally a head comes out with spectacles and said, "Yes." I said, "Do you serve food?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, thank you. What can I have?" He said, "I could have chicken biryani." And it was a very good chicken biryani if you were a vegetarian. And I go back to this place where I'm staying, and I've got all 4 mattresses, one on top of each other, and the concrete is slightly less vicious than the fakirs traditional bed with nails sticking up. Not much, but marginally. And it's wet, and it's damp, and there's no hot water. Lights off. 4 days later, there's still no light. And I can't get out because the road's fallen down the mountain. And I go into this restaurant, and they're all sitting in the Chinese restaurant, and they're all smoking, and they're all drinking. And I said, why is there no electricity? And they said, well, the transformer's burnt out. I said, no, but why is there no electricity? They said, well, the transformer's burnt out. I said, no, but why is there no electricity? They said, we've told you. I said, you haven't told me. The reason is there isn't a spare one. I said, what are you doing here? Why aren't you up there and shouting? And then I realized that starting a revolution in Tuang in the middle of the rain, the 5th day of rain, is probably not going to be successful. So I gave up. And I got a truck back, loaded the thing into a truck, and a very nice Buddhist, the sort of leader of the Tibetan community there, negotiated the price for this 4-wheel drive truck to take my bike and be back. And we start off quite well, except there's no petrol because there's no electricity. So we have to stop at various houses. And I've then discovered why there was a small boy in the back, because the small boy was the handbrake. So you stopped in the pouring rain. He had to jump out and stick a large piece of wood underneath the wheel. And we found enough petrol, and we're going down. And as we're going down, he starts to say, well, you're not paying me enough. I need double. And then he starts to, I don't know if anybody's seen a film called Wages of Fare. It's my sort of generation. Yves Montand driving a truck, and he's very happy down this mountain road, and he ends up going over it. And so I'm Yves Montand, but I'm not driving. And I'm not very happy. And I say, I'll pay you what you like, just slow down. So we slow down, and finally we arrive at the border, and he says, right, can you pay me? And I said, yes, can you just go across the border into Assam? And we cross the border into Assam, and there's this small Jeep coming towards me, Suzuki Jeep, and a huge light suddenly goes straight onto it, and this bellow Simon comes out of it, and the next thing we're surrounded by the special forces. And for some strange reason, he didn't want to be paid. And there are wonderful moments in life when you suddenly find, through no fault of your own, you have had a victory. And then, of course, being me and really stupid, I paid him what he had already initially asked for. And we got very drunk. And I am very English. You might not have noticed. And I was going to stay at this echo camp. And 2 of his soldiers, and Indian special forces, and people have an idea that Indians are small, particularly special forces, are about 6'4". And 2 of them take me back to my camp. And I walk to my bed, absolutely bolt upright, as an English gentleman should. My feet, sure, are about 2 feet off the ground, because one has got me by this elbow, that's the other one. And I think, well, you know, but I've done it. I get back to Assam, and I stay with a wonderful lady called Baby in her spare room. Baby was a great name for the youngest daughter of six children, when she was a baby, but she's still Baby, and she's 52 years old, and an ex-high school teacher, and rather big. The cricket is on the television. She has a big television in her room. And she said, you can come into my room, into my bedroom, and watch television, because the one in the sitting room doesn't really work. So I sit on the chair, like a proper Englishman, like this, you see. She said, you can actually sit on the bed. I'm not going to attack you. I said, no, I'm all right. It's very uncomfortable. And after about half an hour, I get all my kites together, and I put one foot on the bed. 20 minutes later, I put the other foot on the bed. By the time I'm actually on the bed, she's been asleep for about an hour. And then, of course, I don't know how to turn the bloody thing off. Have breakfast. She said, why don't you turn the television off, Simon? Anyway, she takes me to this party. And I'm looking very smart. I've got nice blue trousers and a very fine Indian shirt on. And so I'm not wearing braces. And I knew about the shirt because I'd been to a great club in Calcutta, which is famous for having notice outside saying no dogs or Indians. And I went in my very smart shirt and my beautiful trousers and very well-polished shoes to this couple who had invited me with their wife and a daughter. The wife and daughter had spent at least 6 hours doing their faces and their hair. They were really absolutely beautiful. I was staying with this colonel and who was an absolute pig, because he knew exactly what was going to happen. He was having a great fun. So we get to the club, and we're not allowed to eat in the restaurant or go in the bar because I don't have a collar on my shirt. So now it's, you're allowed dogs, you're allowed Indians, but you're not allowed Indian shirts. We had to eat in the marquee outside with the mosquitoes. The poor wife and daughter. Anyway, so I knew about this. Anyway, but I was very smart because I knew this shirt was all right. It has, you know, a tie because I'm not wearing braces. And I'm sitting in a very deep armchair, like that. And I have a glass in one hand and a plate of something in the other. And I'm looking very decorous. And this rather important dowager comes in. And she's brought over to, and I have to get up because I'm being introduced. And if you all try and stand up without pulling your stomach in, you'll find it's really quite difficult, particularly when you can't use your hands. So you stand up, and as you stand up, your tummy comes in, and the last of the Raj's dignity falls to the floor. It gets worse. There's a granny over in the far corner who shouts across, "Simon, at your age, you don't have much left to hide." So, yeah, this is offensive. Other people have cannibals and rapes and everything. I just lose my trousers. I mean, you know, I would like to do something more successful, but I've never really sort of worked out how to do it, how to be dignified, and it doesn't work. But I do these, and this is such fun. You reach such nice things on the highways of India. That was a slight surprise. That isn't what you rarely expect to meet on the road. And they always look so funny. They look like sort of rather fat elderly ladies in those blue boomers that people used to wear when I was young. That's the sound, by the way. Oh, yes. That, by the way, is a new highway going round the largest dam in India. They lifted my bike down, and they built a tiny little ramp and tried to get me up, and then the whole thing collapsed, and I broke 2 ribs on this side. That wasn't scary. What was scary is you go back onto your bike, and you ride down, and then you ride underneath the dam. And the dam is not just up there, it's way, way, way up there. You know, where vultures are meant to fly in aeroplanes. And you think, God, the same people built the road. You sort of accelerate a bit. So that was only 2 roads. And this is Manali, with 2 friends, I mean decent friends of mine. One, both from Manali. One has dreadlocks, and he does biker tours. And he has dreadlocks, and his grandmother and his grandfather just cannot abide these dreadlocks. And he points out, hey, I'm a 5'4" Indian, and I'm trying to take Australians through the mountains. I need dreadlocks. Otherwise they certainly aren't going to book me. Anyway, he and his friend, the TVS who I was riding for, wanted a film of me going over mountains, so we picked the worst day. If you go on to an octogenarian's Himalayan adventure on YouTube, you will see the film of it. It's really quite professional. That's a great photograph. That's an elephant in the road. Oh, yes, these are people I met. There's a very nice man in the tip of South America. He's an orthopedic surgeon with one leg. The other one he left on a tree when he was riding a Bonneville. While he was in hospital, he had the Bonneville rebuilt, so the gears were on the other side. I got hit by a truck. The police said 3 trucks, and they gave me a certificate. But it wasn't true. It was 1 truck with 2 trucks on top. And we slid for, I reckon, about 40 yards before it stopped. It slid off. I was on ice. Man thing. You know, what am I doing riding on ice? Man thing. Didn't want to turn back. Graciela Batua in the little hotel had got out of bed in her nightie and her dressing gown and had kissed me goodbye, the great adventure, first day, turn back. No, can't do it. You look like an idiot. Not half the idiot when I'm sitting in the, in a little chair in the hospital, like this. And this doctor comes in, he says, your thorax, or something about my thorax. And I said, no, my leg. He said, no, your thorax. I said, no, my leg. Then the x-rays come, and he says, oh, your leg's broken. And I'm about to say, no, my thorax. But at that moment, in comes Graziella, and she grabs me. She's about this high. And mountain cats are their worst, most vicious. And she grabs me by the ear and said, now what are you doing, little grandfather? Oh, you're such a nuisance. And then she starts talking to the doctor. Of course, you cease to exist. You know, you're just sort of something there. And he says, well, we're going to have to wire and screw that and all the rest of it. And I said, well, what's it going to cost? And he doesn't answer me, of course, he answers her. He says, no, why is he worried? His insurance is going to... And she grabs my ear again and said, who do you think would insure this old fool? Which, of course, is true. You know, there's a certain age you arrive where it's difficult to get insurance anyway, but on motorcycles it's particularly difficult to get insurance. So she had this friend who's also an orthopedic surgeon, and he had a look at it, and he said, yeah, screw and wire, perfectly correct, but you'll never walk again properly because you lose so much muscle while you're sort of, you know, in traction and all the rest. He said, I'll just put a cast on it, and I'll put it together, and you'll be out of here in 5 weeks. It may hurt, but, you know, you'll be moving. And so we went back to the hospital, and their orthopedic specialist said, no, you can't use the hospital. We said, I don't give a damn. We went over to the pharmacy, and he got the stuff and went back to the kitchen and set it. And he's right, it does hurt sometimes, but not always. And I did get all the way back with crutches on my bike. It's very important to have crutches because it gets you through all sorts of trouble. I had, not only did I have the certificate from the police that I'd been hit by 3 trucks, but in the crash and everything, and I'm being carted back to the Argentine, I lost all the documents. So the chief of police did an affidavit for me, in which he certified that my papers had been eaten by sheep. And then he put every stamp he could find on it, and he said, that'll get you through to New York. And I looked and he said, come on, they'll laugh. The only place I got stopped was Venezuela. It was a woman. And, you know, and I checked all the guidebooks. You go into Venezuela, you've got to have a banker's draft, you've got to, all the stuff you've got to have. I have nothing, none of it. So I arrived there, and there's this woman. I'm absolutely terrified, you see. And she looks at me, and she looks down, she looks out the window, and she says, what are the crutches for? And I said, well, I got hit by a truck. And she looks at my application for a visa. She said, 3 weeks, you get hit by another truck. You'll live more than that. She gives me 6 months. And opens her drawer and puts all her stamps on the same affidavit. And it got me right the way through. Nobody questioned it. Pepe, yeah. This is how a Raja looks. At ease. Isn't that wonderful? Totally at ease. And he had a maidservant who was older than me. I mean, she must have been about 210. And she insisted every time I came, she would kneel down and try and put her head on my feet. And I, of course, would try and stop her being a proper liberal, right as the guardian. I mean, can you imagine? You know, and I'm trying to get her up, and she's trying to get down. So there's a sort of a slightly sort of awkward struggle, you know. And I said, oh, for God's sake, Simon, leave her alone. She likes doing it. I thought, okay, I'll write for the Telegraph next time. Colonel Rajan Bali. I stayed with in Calcutta. I was staying at the Taj for free, and the head of publicity said, there's someone I want you to meet, you get on. And this guy turns up, and he commanded a helicopter regiment, and both in the Congo and in India. And when he suddenly decided he didn't want to do it anymore, and he was going to become a painter and a writer on food and on travel. He's very successful. And we went, I mean, he knew everything about Calcutta. I mean, there were some people there from Calcutta, and they would bear me out. There is no better food in the whole of India than Calcutta. I mean, it is the fish, the prawns, oh God. And he knew everywhere. And we would go, and then we go to the market, and he'd go around, and they all knew him, and they'd say, oh, Colonel. You know, then we go back to his apartment. His wife was away. and we'd have sort of all the things that we wouldn't have been allowed if our wives were there, you know, all the things that the doctor said were absolutely forbidden, you know, we're going. But he had this wonderful habit. As he walked down the street, he'd go, you know, come on, chaps, up and at them, you know, whether it's the sportsmaster at school or the sort of, you know, the major in the army in the First World War. We ride in the morning, and then we go out for a beer before lunch. And we went to this place called the Chico something or other, which is the oldest bar in Calcutta. And you go in, and it's got marble tables, no women allowed, only beer, and only conversation. And there's one corner which is reserved for writers who have wives, so they can't see in. And they can't send people in to find out if they're there. I really liked that. I thought that was a sort of loyal thing. And then to lunch, vast lunches. Shillong, the guy is the head of the classic car thing, and he's built the most absolutely extraordinary Miami, straight out, Art Deco house. I mean, absolutely extraordinary. It's perfect, absolutely perfect. All the furniture is collected bit by bit. You had a 1950-something Studebaker in the garage, this, a Morris 8, and an Indian that he was rebuilding. And we went for a ride with the Enfield Club of Shillong. God, they make a lot of noise, those things. Boom, 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 boom. I was invited, the last time I was in Delhi, I was invited by this very, very rich Sikh to give a talk and in his apartment, and it was great fun. He was in a gated community within a gated community. So you went through the one, then you came to the other, and the only thing that wasn't air-conditioned were the garages. I went up the penthouse, and he had a gleaming Enfield, all chromed, on a Persian player mat as a sculpture in the middle of the room. Sikhs are quite insistent, you know, about your drinking. They like you to drink. They drink. They live on whiskey, it seems to me. But they are very insistent. And I'm trying not to drink because I'm going to have to make a talk. And you can see all the flowers and all the flower pots are dying in every direction as I sort of pour, you know, and it's Chivas Regal, which is a terrible whiskey. Anyway, and finally I had to give my speech, and I was really irritated by the whiskey by this time. And I thought I finally discovered why all Sikhs drive these Enfields, because they make exactly the same noise as you do when you drink beer. And half laughed and half weren't at all amused. But the daughter was a high court lawyer, and she was one of the sort of 200 people, I suppose, in India who told me there were only 8 judges in India who couldn't be bought. And of those 8, they were very, very old, so there's probably only 4 now. Some of them must have died out. I don't know why I'm talking about India. There are moments of great dignity. This is the head of tourism in Assam, and she's just decorated me with, I mean, have you ever seen anybody who looks more dignified? I mean, the hat is perfect, don't you think? I mean, it's me. I was apologizing to her. This is a wonderful man. He is head of forestry in Madhya Pradesh, which is a huge area about the size of Wales. And so wild animals come under him, tigers included. And he rang up the man I was staying with. The man I was staying with, his grandfather had shot 27 tigers, and his grandmother had shot 7. And he had spent his entire life, as is his wife, protecting tigers. Anyway, this man rang up, said, "Have you got an 80-year-old biker staying with you?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "No, 80-year-old, a Brit?" Yeah. "Oh, I've got to see this. Tell him to come to my office." So I went up to the next town and went to his office, and he just looked at me. He said, "I'm wearing my braces and a black T-shirt." Then he said, "I love the braces." said, have you seen the tigers? And I said, no, I haven't seen the tigers. And I said, it's not what you don't see, it's what you do see. And I've just seen so much. It's been there a week. And it was absolutely wonderful. Every day in a jeep with a naturalist. It was just absolute heaven. He said, but you haven't seen the tigers. I said, no. He said, come here 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, please, back gate. And he said, no camera. And so I got there, and he put me on an elephant with the chief ranger, which is against the law, and off we blundered into the jungle. And we found, first of all, a lady tigress who had just had a very big meal and couldn't be bothered to stand up. And the ranger said there were 2 cubs, nearly full grown. And after about 5 minutes, one of them came along and sort of looked at us and snarled a couple of times, then walked over to its mother, and you could see the conversation. And she said, oh, lie down and shut up. You know, and he flopped down beside her, and we waited another 10 minutes, and the other one came in, exactly the same conversation. I mean, you could just see it. Went back and we had breakfast and had my photograph taken. Great dignity. Yeah. In Delhi, I was staying at the American Embassy compound, which for a lefty like me is always surprising. And I'd got this message, it was Sunday morning, it was the hottest time of the year, would I like to go for a ride with a group of bikers? And I said, yeah, that'd be lovely. So I got out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning, well, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I wheel my 125 out past the security, and they're all watching, and this turns up. I mean, 2,300 Triumph. I couldn't keep up that full speed when it's ticking over. And they looked at my bike, and the next one came over, huge BMW, another one came with another Triumph, and they looked at me and they said, why don't we just go to breakfast? This man is very important. He's called the stratospheric, named by me, because 100,000 people take the civil service exam in India each year, and he came 5th. That's stratospheric. And I have a very great friend, this is just outside Orchard, I have a great friend who lives in Orchard most of the time, or goes to Orchard as part of the family, the royal family. And he was the collector, which is magistrate, tax, it's everything. I mean, it's the power. And he had a car with a chauffeur, and he always wore sort of things like that, or bad boy T-shirts, or I mean, terrible. And everybody presumed that I was the great sort of important person, you see, and he was just, nothing in his weird T-shirts, which gave us enormous opportunities. And I was asked to write a piece about a charity. And I wasn't very sure about the charity because it was called Just a Drop, and they were putting in water lavatories, water closets in little villages in an area where the water table was dropping like a stone. So it didn't seem to me very sensible, anyway. And they had to do it in league with an Indian charity. So we went to see the Indian charity. And I was sort of dressed up, and he was in his bad boy. And so they ignored him. And they started giving me these pamphlets, and they're all done on handmade art paper, I mean, beautiful brochures. And he sort of looks, he whispers to me, 1 is suspicious, 2 is corruption. And, and the whole thing was just totally ludicrous. They just bought a bus, brand new bus, to take the staff into the town, which was 3 miles away. They could have gone by bicycle. So that's him. And I mean, he doesn't really look like the most powerful person in a small state, even a small state. He's now very important in Bihar. This, so, back. Oh, I don't know what. The one who just disappeared, Ajay, is my best friend, who's like a cousin of the Maharaj there. And I love trees. The most beautiful trees in the world. Does any people know that? Pride of India? So beautiful. In India they're called Pride of India, and they're just absolutely extraordinary. Huge avenues of them, and just dripping blossom. It's just so, it's a whole different aspect to me of India. just rhododendrons going all up the sides of that Arunachal Pradesh, right up the mountain. Just absolutely wonderful. Oh, that's my great-grandfather, which is going to be my next trip probably. But I had one sort of, I think that's saying that I'm finished. I haven't finished. I was going to tell one more stupid story. Now the noise has gone on, I can't remember what it was. Someone was walking past earlier today and he had adventure before dementia. I thought, well, what about me? I mean, long after dementia set in. It stopped. Do you want me to go away? Was that fun, or was that sort of a criticism of what I was doing?
No, I'd rather hear you.
You're sure? I mean, I don't want to be a pest.
You carry on, I'll tell you when you're being a pest.
Where was I? Oh, I was in India.
That's your grandfather.
Your great-grandfather.
Oh, my great-grandfather. Now, I wanted to. He started off as a guerrilla in a civil war in 1836, and 4 years later was a general, and he fought his way all the way around Spain. He had a reputation for being not very pleasant to people, in the way of sort of chopping their heads off and things, particularly after an opposing general took my great-grandmother out and had her shot. And there's a great engraving of her being shot, and she is a 22-year-old virgin in black, slender and beautiful, looking up at a friar who's holding a cross out to her while they're about to fusillade her. And you think, well, wait a minute, they weren't very good shots and guns weren't very reliable. The friar would have been about 200 yards away if he had any sense. And she was 45 years old and had 4 children, and she wouldn't have been a slim, slender virgin like that. She would have been a typical Catalan lady, rather broader than tall. But anyway, he got very angry and he killed a lot of people. But he fought, and he was known as the El Tigre de los Maestragos, the tiger of the Maestragos of the Sierras. And he took, that's Morelia, and he conquered Morelia. And so I was going to follow him around on a white motorcycle. And I have books. I have a book which describes exactly what he did day by someone who was with him, which is about where he was. And I have a book in English by a Bible who has been, and he describes everybody in the same places, but the actual places, rather than just what was happening. And I thought, put the two together, and me on a white motorcycle going from place to place. And I know the church where he was hidden when he was wounded, and it's sort of an, for me, sort of quite exciting thing, because the other option, I mean, I have to work for a living, the only option I have other than that is these Americans who had the little bikes. They're now importing a 250 from China. There's been criticism saying, oh, it's bound to be just another piece of Chinese junk. So they said, well, I'd like to pick it up, one up in China, and ride it round. So I sort of said, well, round where? The square? But they seemed to want me to go a bit further than that, and I thought, well, that'll take about 2 years. I couldn't understand it. I mean, why on earth would you ask someone my age? I mean, that's a really bad bet. Even if the bike doesn't break down, I'd probably snuff it. But on the other hand, I think how pleased my wife would be. I mean, why do you travel? I don't know. I keep on meeting men. They say, oh, my wife would never let me do that. I always say, have you ever asked? You might get a surprise. Yes, darling. Don't hurry. Take your time. Particularly when they're up my sort of age. Because, I mean, women marry someone, and they think, right, 5 days in the office, golf on Sunday or Saturday, so it's only one day, and then suddenly they've retired and you've got 7 days of it. Oh, God. I mean, that's not what you bargained for. I mean, I'm not suggesting that all women are like that or all men are tapped to be like, no, my word, God, if I'm home 7 days a week, God. It makes her happy because she works. Makes me happy because she works. I'm sure I've done enough. What's the time? Have I done enough? I go back to where I was. Total exhaustion. That's what happens when you get to the top of the pass. And what you get rewarded with? Maggi noodles. And now they've discovered they give you cancer. I mean, going all the way up that bloody pass in the mud and the pouring rain and the snow for Maggi noodles that give you cancer. I mean, that's an adventure if you ever want one. There were these Australians who passed me, apparently about 3 times, he told me afterwards. They kept on going, you know, and I met them going south from Srinagar, pouring rain, and I pulled into this tea house where they all were, their gleaming big bikes. And he said, "Oh, hi, Simon." And I thought, you know, I did pass you a few times. And I knew why it passed me, because, you know, he's charging people £2,000-3,000 to take them on a trip, you know, that I'm doing on my little 125 with my wheelie suitcase on the back. And there was this one guy who was a Serbian who'd become an Australian, young guy, I suppose, in his late 20s. And he notices I'm wearing shoes. I always wear shoes. Why do I wear shoes? Because churches give me shoes, and churches' shoes are immensely expensive. And I wear the first pair that I ever had, which is now about 20, 30 years old. I walked over Afghanistan in those, and I put the new ones they gave me away, you see. I shall leave them to my children. Won't leave them anything else. You know, so there I am in my shoes, and this guy points at me, he said, "Look at you." And this Australian was taking the part, he said, "How many miles have you ever ridden, kid?" And I thought, well, that's nice. I feel good about that. This is going up to Kodaikanal in India. I mean, that is what is so wonderful about India, is the continual change that you get. From when I first went down to Orcha, I was sitting there, and Ajay, my friend, it was the first time we met. He was just he was waiting to be told that a train was arriving, and so he was in a hurry. And he said, all you people, all you do is follow the tourist route. He said, I can take you to a place 50 miles from here, where it's lush greenery and waterfalls and a paradise. And people don't, they do the same thing. They do Rajasthan. God, I hate those bloody buildings. Yeah. I was staying at the Taj people are very nice to me. Vaguely, one of them was a friend of mine. In fact, I was staying at the Taj, the Taj, which is Bombay. I was told by 3 very large professors from Bombay at the Jaipur Literary Festival. I said something about Mumbai, and one of the leaders sort of said, "Bombay, Simon, the only people who say Mumbai are foreign newscasters." And it's wonderful, they put you in your place so well. But I don't know why I got onto that, lost my track entirely. What was I talking about? Damn! What is it called? Dementia, yes. I mean, I do the crossword every morning, the quick one. Well, quick is quick. Well, I'm not very quick. I'm a dyslexic, so that shows a certain optimism. And it does take me a rather long time, but I usually get it right. But what is worse is, I mean, you know, I've tried to check whether I've got dementia yet. And I suppose it's pretty demented to try and do the crossword every morning if you're dyslexic. You know, and then you take the train up to London, you sit at one of those things. I always have to sit where there are 4 seats, you see, because I'm doing, you know, and I haven't got a dictionary with me. So, you know, and I get stuck on a simple little word like there or why or something, and it suddenly goes blank and I just can't do it. And then I lean across the table and I say, "Excuse me, I wonder, I'm dyslexic, could you tell me how to spell?" And it's wonderful, suddenly a conversation starts. You know, they look a bit shattered at first. My God, you know, someone's talked to me on a train in England. Yeah, I remember I was signing books years ago when I was writing fiction in Fiorucci's window in Bond Street, the dress shop. They put me in the window with a red plastic table with a red typewriter on it, plastic typewriter. You know. And I think, what do you do? I mean, it's embarrassing. You know, people are walking past outside, and it's embarrassing. So I started to write poems about sitting in Fiorucci's window. And this little black girl comes in, and she's got beautiful pigtails like that. She's about this high, and she walks up. She stands beside me and says, "Are you famous?" And I said, "No, not very." She said, "If my mummy bought a book, would it help being famous?" And I said, "Yes, it would help a little bit. That'd be very kind." "Mummy!" drags this poor woman who's only come in for a pair of boots, that came up there. There are all these girls going around on rollerblades, who are doing this, the sales girls with legs up to there too. And this poor woman has to buy a book. Was that about motorcycles? God, I'm sorry. I really shouldn't do this, should I? I won't do many more. I only do this because these people said that I was funny. And they had my books. So I had to agree with them, otherwise they wouldn't have given me my books back. Now they're counting how many laughs. If I don't get the right amount of laughs, they won't give me the books back. And even worse, they won't give me breakfast in the morning. I'm determined to talk about motorcycles. Does anybody not know what a 125 is? I know what a 125 is. I don't know what it is, but I know it's called a 125 and it's small. And when it falls over, I can lift it back up again without too much difficulty, although I do have to take things off it now. Originally, I could lift it with the suitcase on it. Now I do have to take the suitcase off. And if it has Chinese bungee rubbers, I've learnt that 5 Chinese bungee rubbers straighten themselves after about 4 weeks. So you have to have a lot of spare ones. And the other thing you do, because I learnt this I was watching these people, I arrived very early this morning, and there was people who got these